Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Commercial Real Estate Secrets. I'm your host, Austin Hare, and our guest today is Dr. Mary Pham. She's the CEO, founder, pediatric dentist, and AKA the mom of Lollipop Dental, Pediatric Dentistry, and Orthodontics. So it was founded in 2012. They currently have 4 locations, and they have rapid growth to open another additional 4 locations this year. So they are on track to continue growing fast and be very successful. And so it is a pleasure to have you on the show, Dr. Pham. How's it going?
Good. It's really great to be here, and I'm excited to, share my story and help anyone out there I can with entrepreneurship and dentistry.
Well, we definitely appreciate that. So I know that you are on the West Coast. Can you explain a little bit more about like your specific locations and where you guys are located?
So we're currently in Orange County. 3 of our locations are in Orange County, but this year we're actually expanding a little bit more into LA County. So our current cities are Costa Mesa, Garden Grove, Placentia, and our new locations are going to be in Cerritos, Long Beach, Tustin, and Lake Forest. So we're open to growing wherever the need is.
That's great. So, and do you have your specific locations picked out yet, or just the general trade areas?
So the current locations that we have in the works are already finalized and they're in the permitting and construction phase.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, cool. Yeah, let's definitely talk more about that. But first, I just want to get to know you. How have you always been a resident of California? I was actually born in Newport Beach, but I didn't stay out there for very long. I think it was about 9 months before my parents took us back over to the West Coast or East Coast, and we kind of grew up going around Florida. What about you?
I'm actually from Alabama. I'm a Southern girl.
Nice.
Born and raised in Mobile, Alabama. My parents were actually refugees from the Vietnam War.
No way. Wow.
Yeah. They met at a refugee camp in Guam as they were escaping and trying to find
Wow.
where to go. And they were thankfully sponsored by an American family in Alabama.
Wow,
And
that's crazy.
yeah, so it's amazing to think that my parents went through that. But I think that through that experience, I've definitely learned a lot of lessons through their experiences and how they raised us. But we grew up in Alabama. I lived there from, when I was born until I finished college at Auburn University.
Mm.
And after Auburn University, I was actually trying to go to med school and I didn't get in.
Oh,
And so, I was like, okay, what else am I going to do? Because my parents have these high expectations of me. So I actually moved to Texas and tried to figure out my life. And I ended up working at Hooters as a waitress.
nice. What did your parents think of that?
They never knew. Well, they'll know now.
Hopefully they don't listen to this, right?
So yeah, no, I worked there for about a year trying to figure out my life. During that time, I actually met a dentist who was one of my customers.
Oh,
And she, we were just chatting and she said, have you ever thought of dentistry? And I was like, oh, never. I'll never, I've always wanted to be a medical doctor. And she's like, you should really consider this field because you already have your degree and you've already taken your, MCAT. So the DAT is very similar. So I didn't think much of it. And I I saw her actually 2 weeks later. She came in again to talk to me. And that time she brought her boyfriend, and he was an orthodontist, and so he was telling me the same thing. He's like, "What are you doing working here? You have so much potential. Just try dentistry." And I think that's what really encouraged me to pursue dentistry. And
wow.
yeah, so it's pretty cool that 2 years ago I actually looked for them and I found them during the pandemic. So we have plans to meet probably sometime this year once everything opens up again. But so
That's
that's
cool.
yeah, it's
Yeah, well, and I want to hone in a little bit more about your parents because that's a fascinating story. You said they were refugees from, you said Vietnam?
yeah. So they came from Vietnam basically with the clothes on their back.
Wow.
Um, they my dad actually went to college not knowing any English.
Wow.
And he became an engineer and worked for 25 years at International Paper Company.
And was he like 18 when he came over? Like how old were they?
Yeah, he was 18 and my
Wow.
mom was, I think, 15. So
And they were
he
already
was,
married when they came over?
no, they met at the refugee camp when
Oh,
they were,
here. Okay.
yeah, in Guam.
Oh, in Guam. Okay. All right. I didn't catch that part. All right. So they met there. They both migrated over here. And then I
Right.
guess they already knew each other. They had some sort of relationship. And then how long was it before they got married?
Not long, I think like a year or so.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was really fast.
So your dad, he's in college and he's got to just learn English by the seat of his pants, pretty much, in order that he can keep up.
Yep,
Man, that's
exactly.
impressive.
Yeah, no, it's pretty amazing. And he got his master's at night. When we were children, I remember him studying, and he's one of those people that just really um or is dedicated in everything that he does, and he's always trying to be better for himself. And then when we grew up, so there's four children in our family, so I'm the second one. My mom, when my little sister graduated and went to college, my mom decided to open nail salons or go to cosmetology school.
Mm.
She started opening nail salons in Alabama. So I think eventually they ended up having around 5 or 6 locations,
Oh,
and they ended up selling the nail shops when I was in dental school. And so they said, they really, I think through that experience, seeing my mom own a business and helping her, my whole life from when I was 12 until I graduated from Auburn University, it was really cool to see them build what they had. And they actually do, after they sold the nail shops, they started purchasing commercial real estate.
really?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so two questions. It's why is it because it seems like a lot of Vietnamese will get into those nail shops. Why is that?
so it started because it's a technical skill.
Hmm.
Um, and, and I think that most Vietnamese people, they really love working in an industry where if their English isn't that good,
Okay.
they can still, like, the product of their work is mainly like the fingernails or the toenails or, you
Interesting.
know, yeah. But from, I don't know the story that well, but I think it kind of originated in California from one lady who opened up a nail salon school for the Vietnamese refugees, because they have a few here in Orange County where they teach you in Vietnamese. And so I think that might have started the whole Vietnamese.
Wow, crazy.
And then it kind of moved to all
Yeah.
over the US. Hmm.
Wow. Okay. So, and then you said they started buying commercial real estate, which is really fascinating to me. So after they sold, sounds like they probably got to a point where they decided, hey, we worked hard enough at working in the business. Let's do something where we can be more investors than, active managers. So what kind of real estate did they start buying after that?
The shopping centers that their nail shops were in.
Oh, nice.
So
Did
I
you learn
think
anything about commercial real estate in that process?
that it was a lot of work, and that, just taking care of their tenants. And, every time, someone would need something, they would be there. They were their own management company,
Hmm.
basically. But I knew that long term, this is what they were looking at. Because the nail shops that they had, it's very taxing on the body, just like dentistry. You're using your hands and your back and your body the entire time. And so after my mom had done nails for so long, she actually had to have 2 shoulder surgeries, and she does have like carpal tunnel in her wrist. So she knew it wasn't a long-term thing for her. So I think real estate was the next thing that they felt like they wanted to learn about and invest in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And I love hearing stories like that because there's such like an anti-American narrative going around these days, that they say, the American dream is dead or you can't do things like this. But when you have first generation immigrants who literally can't speak English when they get over here, are able to create a successful business, turn that into successful investing and own commercial real estate. I mean, to me, that just shows you that the opportunity is there for anybody who wants to take advantage of it.
Oh, absolutely. My parents they're very, very proud Americans and very grateful to be here. And they tell us that all the time.
That's cool. So how do you think that having parents like that, like, shaped your childhood growing up?
I definitely feel like just with my parents' childhood and our childhood, they always remind us that that it was very different, and that we're very fortunate to be in a country where we are allowed to own property and to, that whatever you put in and how dedicated you are is the result of what you could make of yourself. And that's not allowed in all countries, and so they always tell us that, like, work hard, do the very best you can because there's a lot of opportunities here in America.
Yeah, it's so great. Such a good, because they made great lives, obviously. And it's like a lot of times we just look at the most successful people, like the world's richest billionaires, and we think, oh well, like, I'll never be like them, so therefore I'm unhappy. But like comparing yourself to the richest peoples, which is what the media focuses on, is just a recipe for unhappiness. Because truthfully, we all have more than enough opportunity to have like amazing lives, even if we never become ultra wealthy, or even if we never become those super billionaires. And so, yeah, I think it's just a testament to how great of a country and how lucky we are to live here. So, yeah, that's really cool. All right, so now let's fast forward a little bit. You met this person. They told you to go into dental. So what was the dental career like from that stage?
So initially, I wasn't sure if it was for me. I received the acceptance letter and I was like, I guess I'm going to be a dentist. Even I think into my second year of dental school, I was still unsure. But I wanted to make sure to make my parents proud because I knew how hard they worked and they wanted, my mom and my dad always said, our dying wish is to know that our children are going to be okay if something were to ever happen to us. So I knew that just having this degree would give me financially, a life that would be okay, you know. But I wasn't sure if I was going to be happy doing it. And so I think when I started seeing patients, my third year is when I really started to enjoy dentistry. And it reminded me of when I used to do nails at my mom's nail salons, where I was talking to people, taking care of them the same way I did when I did their nails. But it was beyond that, it was healthcare and taking care of their smile. And it was a different
Mm.
type of experience. When you do people's nails, it does make them feel better, gives them confidence. And but I think in dentistry, it takes it up a notch. It's like something that you've done that allows them to smile bigger, helps with their health, everything. And so going into pediatrics, I didn't even consider that until my instructor pointed it out to me when I was in my pediatric rotation. His name is Dr. Beal, and he's like, Mary, you're really good with children. Have you ever considered specializing? And I said, no, I don't think so. I've never thought about it. And he's like, there's something special about you. It's just very natural. Why don't you try it? And that's how I got into specialty.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
yeah. So my career, I've been practicing as a dentist since 2000, as a specialist since 2011. And then, we started our third practice in 2019. And after I had my children in 2017, I had my second child. I realized that I really love the business side of dentistry, and that's how we started growing. Was because I really enjoyed the business side, and I started getting interest from my current amazing doctors that work with us that they wanted to be a part of it too long term.
That's cool. All right. So what was the path from like essentially dental school to owning your first location like?
It was really tough because we didn't know anything about business. The only business knowledge I had was just from what I saw my mom doing. So it definitely was a learning experience. a lot of tears, a lot of wanting to give up. But I knew that this was what I wanted to do, and I just had to stick with it.
Yeah, and that's common, I think, too. Like, at least for me when I was younger, and what I hear from a lot of other entrepreneurs is, you go through and you read some books like Rich Dad Poor Dad and the E-Myth and the 4 Hour Work Week, and then you think like, oh, like I am going to be so well prepared for owning a business. Like I've got this different mindset and this mentality, but there's just nothing that can prepare you aside from actual real world hands-on trial and error. Like there's so many facets to running a business. There's so many facets to life, and things that worked 5 years ago don't work today. And things that you read in a book, some of the common principles stay true, of course, but some of the tactical things are changing all the time. And so you really just have to get in there and make your own mistakes. And everybody has their own set of unique strengths and weaknesses. And so some things of running a business might come naturally to you, but there's other areas that you just had no idea. You didn't even know what you don't know. And so you have to go in there and you have to give it a shot and you have to try in order to figure out how to really do it. And were you an associate at another practice, or did you like essentially start straight up year one with your own practice?
So I started working as an associate in 2011 for, I would say I was an associate for probably about 3 or 4 years, even as an owner as well, because I had to work another job to support my growing practice. And I did have 2 to 3 employees during that first year that I had to make sure that they could keep their jobs. So I did that as long as I could. And then as we started growing, I started cutting back a little bit at the associateships.
Okay. And your first location, was that a de novo location or an acquisition?
It was a startup. It was a de novo.
Okay. All right, cool. So what made you decide to do a startup versus acquiring an existing one?
So it was just a good deal, honestly. Like we looked probably for like a year, and there was this one medical building where the owner had one suite that was the size we were looking for. He just happened to be a contractor,
Oh,
and he was like, I'll build the whole thing out for you and you don't have to pay me anything.
what?
And yeah.
That's like, oh, that's $100,000 savings right there.
Yeah. So, we were brand new out of school. I had this huge debt from USC, and I was like, I think this is it. We should try it. We have nothing to lose. So that was the first de novo. And then
Okay.
our
What
acquisition,
location was that? Like
that was,
where is that located?
it was in the Placentia office.
Okay. And you still have that one, right?
Yes, that's
Nice.
kind of like our first one.
So you said you were looking obviously for square footage. It sounds like, was this more of an office location than a retail location?
Yes, this one's in a medical building.
Okay. And so like, what was the process like of, finding out where to put your first location? Because there's obviously a lot of factors that go into it. I mean, were you running reports and crunching numbers about demographics and patient to population density or dentist density and stuff like that?
I did. I mean, at that time, I didn't know much about it. So I just looked at my competition in the area. I looked at the demographics and the number of families around there as a starting point. And then with our new locations, I compare it to that location to make sure it's very similar.
Okay. All right, cool. So you were kind of just looking at the saturation of competition to help you decide where you wanted to go.
Correct.
Okay. And obviously that one had, it's kind of like the least saturation of areas that you were looking at. And then did you have one specific trade area you wanted to go to, or were you kind of looking at multiple different trade areas just to find, like looking at where you could get the best kind of lease terms or something like that?
My initial strategy is looking more at need. So as a specialist, we rely on general dentists or family dentists for referrals. And of course, where there's new neighborhoods and schools and daycares and other companies or businesses that cater to families and children. And so that's what I was looking at mainly. Was there a pediatric dentist that was highly rated that in that area to serve those patients?
That's great. That's great. Okay. So you open up your first one. Sounds like it takes a little bit of time because you can't really focus full time. You got to hold this other associate job. So from the time you kind of went full time, how long did that take to really ramp it up and get to the point where you're like, hey, I really think that I can scale this and start opening multiple locations?
I believe that happened, or I saw the opportunity when I had my first child in 2015. So I would say 4 years. But I was working there full time, 6 days a week for those from 2012 and to 2015.
Mm.
And so I think I probably could have scaled at that time, but I was just so focused on working and taking care of the patients. And then when I finally had my baby is when I started to really look back and see that my associates are just as good as I am and they can take care of the patients just as well. Whereas, where can I utilize this time that I have to continue either growing my team, growing my associate, or my business?
How much of your parents' influence do you think weighed in on you during that time? Because your mom had 5 locations, you said. Was it a part? I know you said your dad was an engineer. Did they partner together with that, or did he kind of keep his job?
He kept his job.
He just helped
um,
her kind of on part-time.
exactly.
Okay. So, because it sounds like if your mom came over here, didn't really know much English, she would have had to really start out hands-on, physically doing a lot of the manual work. But in order to scale to 5 locations, at some point she stepped back, right, and learned how to outsource and hire and delegate and that sort of thing. And so, was that an influence on you too when you were thinking about opening up multiple locations?
Oh, definitely. I think that, one thing that I really learned from my mom is that you can still have that family mom and pop feel while growing.
Hmm.
And you can still have that reach if you have great people in place. And so I definitely learned that from her.
Yeah, and I agree with that completely. The hardest part is finding, and attracting great people. So how do you guys go about doing that?
We really try to promote from within if possible. Um, because I want people to know that if you can start at Lollipop Dental and the opportunities are endless if you dedicate yourself and you really are have leadership ability and you're kind and your growth mindset that you can do anything that you want to do. And so I definitely, when we hire for culture fit and core value fit more than experience.
That's great.
And it's been really beneficial for us. And we've seen people, a lot of my leadership team will say I was born and raised at Lollipop Dental. They started me from high school and now they're in their
Oh, wow.
20s. Yeah. And they're running operational roles and have seen us grow through the years and, you know, learning so much and helping drive the company forward.
So they start as like a front desk kind of position and they work their way up to like branch manager or something like that, or location manager.
Exactly.
Okay. And do you ever do like, equity shares or ownership shares or anything like that?
So we're in the process of exploring those options for our leadership team. We haven't finalized anything. When it comes to the doctors, some of our new locations, we are going to partner with some of our doctors,
Okay.
um, just to give them some ownership
Yeah.
and want them to be a part of our growth as we grow as well.
Yeah. I mean, once that happens, you're ensuring longevity of that relationship because they're probably not going to go anywhere. So it's a two-way street, right? Like obviously it's got to be a good fit for them, but you got to make sure it's a good fit for you too, because once they have that equity, they're not going to give it back.
Yeah, no, I mean, they are so amazing and take care of our patients. It's an easy decision for us. You were talking a little bit about, the ultra wealthy and, like sometimes people think that that's what brings happiness. And I think once you get to a certain level of financial stability, whatever that looks like for each person, your mind shifts into how can I help all of the people that have helped get us to where we are, and I think that's where we are as a company right now is all of the people who have dedicated their lives to our company or to our patients. We want to have them sharing the fruits of all of our labor.
Yeah, that's good. What kind of square footage do you guys occupy now?
Depending on the practice, So I would say a startup for us, we look at anywhere between at minimum 2,200 to 2,700 square feet for a single location. Two of our offices, we've expanded to double that.
Wow. Okay. So the demand was just super high in those areas.
Yeah, one actually, our main office, we're thinking about opening another. We know that we need about 22 to 25 to add the number of chairs to support another doctor.
Okay. So moving forward with your de novo locations, what kind of square footage are you targeting with those guys?
So now we're looking at double to start because we found that after a couple of years, we need it anyway.
Mm.
And so one of our locations is a single, and the other, I'm sorry, two of them are single, and then two of them are double.
Mm. Okay. And so what are you like, how do you target where to go? Like what made you, I know you got 4 already open, you got 4 in the works right now. What kind of things were you looking for when you were looking at these new locations?
We were listening to our customers and our patients, as they started moving out of our area. We would start hearing the same cities over and over, like, oh, I'm coming all the way from Santa Ana, but I love you guys, but there's nobody like you in our area. So one thing I started doing was pulling the zip codes for our practice, and I would look at like the 5 to 10% of our patients that were still driving to see us. So we would pull those zip codes and see if there was any competition in that area. And if not, then we would consider certain areas that we could see ourselves being in. And we knew that starting off, we could pull a small percentage from our main location, but then be able to serve these loyal patients that were driving to see us as
Yeah.
like a starting point.
Yeah, that's
So
smart.
yeah, between our locations, it's not that far. I would say 15-minute drive on average. But because it's so dense here in California, it's a mainly completely different neighborhood or um, different group of families.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. LA traffic is not something you want to take lightly. All right. So, and then is that a strategy that you did for the 4 that you're going to be opening or for the ones that you previously opened?
Currently opened.
Okay. All right, cool. So 4 on the works for next year. And then what are kind of your 5-year goal or 10-year goals?
So our goals in the next 5 to 10 years are just to continue to grow organically. Um, I really don't have a strategy of how many I want to open. I think all of our growth has been, like I mentioned, just organic. It's when I have an associate doctor that wants to partner. I look at locations that they would want to live in and raise their families in because I know that that's important, for each doctor. And I want to be able to help them open that location. So I look at it more for them and that I'm helping support them in the process because they love our culture and in Lollipop. So that's the strategy that we've used so far is the doctors will just write down where they would want to be. And then I dig a little bit deeper into those areas to say, hey, there's too much competition there. Or yes, this location looks good. We're looking in this general area.
Has it been slow for you this last year? I know some states are opening up at different rates. Like in Florida, it feels like we never really even shut down at all, but obviously California has been crazy lockdown. So do you feel like that has affected the business or have you guys feel like you've been like just as busy as always?
We were right after COVID opened, we had record numbers for those first 6 months after. This year, we're still trending the growth that we had anticipated.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it initially, of course, all business owners were very nervous about how that would affect us. But I think in dentistry, because we do wear specific PPEs or personal protective equipment, we felt safe seeing patients. Our team felt safe. That was the biggest thing for us is that everyone who came back felt safe. And I think that's a testament to us communicating with our patients and letting them know how safety was important for us and that they felt comfortable coming back.
Mm. Yeah, and it's so regional too. Like, we've done deals in 46 different states, and some places like, in the Southeast right now, commercial real estate is still at an all-time high. It's still peaking. It's hard to find spaces. And then the prices are going up because the cost of construction is also going up. And so you can't build and develop. Are you guys experiencing similar things in Orange County?
Definitely.
Yeah.
What we budgeted pre-COVID is not the same as post-COVID. So
Yeah.
cost of materials, just like you were saying, raw materials, labor, everything has increased. So we definitely see that, but it's not discouraging because we know that, just from our history of taking care of patients the way that we do, we know that we can continue growing. And our biggest referral is word of mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's a marginal fee, right? Like I think might increase your overall cost by 20% or 25%. And it's a one-time fee, but as far as the business goes, you can continue to keep growing that exponentially. So, and then do you guys always rent your locations? Do you ever buy? And how do you decide, on renting versus buying?
So most of them are rentals. We did buy one of our new locations,
Hmm.
um, and it was just within our budget. So, a lot of the retail centers that we go in, buying is not an option.
Yeah.
And for us, visibility and foot traffic, bring a lot of value. And so we feel like if it's in a highly populated, busy retail center, within a good location within that center, then we're okay renting um, that
Yeah. At
space.
that stage, your rent becomes a factor of marketing, right? Like when you have these digital marketing platforms that are all bidding platforms, all that means is the price will continue to go up over time. And so the good thing about rent is you sign the lease and you're pretty much locked in. And so if you know your numbers really well, right, then you can kind of do some math and just figure out like, okay, by paying this much in rent, maybe it's a 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 or more per month, you might be able to save at least that much in marketing. Or if you weren't planning on marketing, you'll probably be able to get more than that much recurring revenue in new patients or returning patients, right? Is that kind of how you guys look at it as well?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And so the location that you bought, is that a standalone location or is it in a retail center?
It's actually a medical condo
Okay.
on a signalized corner.
Oh,
And
interesting.
so it's not tucked away like a lot of medical buildings are. It's actually in a pretty good location. So that's why we decided to buy that one.
Yeah. And, like people ask us this question a lot, and we don't have a one size fits all answer. I mean, it's so situational. Honestly, most of the time, it does make more sense to rent, especially if you're scaling like you guys are, because you just have a certain amount of capital, right? And if you're allocating that capital to the purchase of a building, that's less capital that you can allocate towards growing your business. And when you guys are focused specifically on pediatrics and dentistry and orthodontics, you're going to make a lot more money than you will by investing that in real estate, which is not your core focus. And so, yeah, I totally get it. Now, so obviously, sometimes there's opportunities, and that makes sense to buy, like it sounds like what you guys did. But yeah, you have to be smart with your capital, especially in the beginning. For people who have like a single location, it makes a lot more sense to buy the real estate because they're not as constrained by the capital. But there is no one size fits all answer. Like it's always situational.
Yeah, agreed, definitely.
So, all right. I know we talked a little bit about your books that were influences on you. How do you think that helped you? Like, what were some of your favorite books? I see Attraction, Leadership and Self-Deception, The Energy Bus.
So, each book has its own focus and it has little tools that you can use to help develop, whether it's your team, yourself, or your business. And, depending on what I feel like the needs of our company or myself or the team, that's what we decide to read. But I really loved the Leadership and Self-Deception because it really makes you focus on yourself, whether you're the CEO, whether you're, a sterilization tech or a front office person. It helps you just change your mindset into thinking outside of the box, and that a lot of how you um, approach people, it makes a difference in how effective you as a leader can be. And so
That's
You know,
cool.
yeah, it just depends on what I feel like the needs of the company are. I'll look for something either team oriented or business oriented. But we use Traction in our company currently, and we love it.
Yeah. Okay. And traction is something that we've looked at as well. Can you explain a little bit about some of your major takeaways from that?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that we love is just the structure.
Mm.
You know, what we had found prior was that we were just having meetings upon meetings upon meetings, and we were talking about the same issues every
Mm.
single time, and they would go on for hours. And so with Traction, it just helped us um, have a real structure to the meetings and a start and an end time. And then it helped each person who was a part of the meeting have a takeaway that they were responsible for and held accountable for.
They're rocks, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, it's so good. And then I know you can hire implementers. Did you guys hire an implementer to come help you out?
We didn't. We had considered it, but if I would say if someone was the implementer, it would be me.
Yeah.
I initially started it about a year ago, but
Okay.
now, yeah, and our team is able to self-sufficiently be consistent with it every week.
Well, it sounds like what you guys are doing is working. So obviously, Lollipop Dental is doing well. It's moving up and to the right. Where do you see the overall economy going?
I think it's just going to keep on going up. You know, I think that, you know, after COVID, people are anxious to, you know, start working again, lead a normal life, go on vacation, go see the dentist, and just resume a lot of what we did before. And I think with that, the economy will just only get better this year, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's already the economy's largely recovered, and California hasn't even opened yet. Now that California is opening back up, I think it's going to continue to go up and to the right. We did see commodity prices come down, like lumber, copper, corn, that sort of thing. So they did actually come a little bit down from their all-time highs. So maybe you won't have to spend as much money as you thought on those build outs.
That would be amazing because the lumber was a big thing that our contractors were talking about this year.
Yeah, it was crazy. Okay. Well, if anybody, likes what they hear and they want to get in touch or ask questions or anything like that, will be the best way to get in touch with you guys.
Yeah, they can email me anytime, drmary@lollipopdental.com.
Cool. I will put that in the show notes. Um, well, great. Yeah. Yeah, this has been great. It's been very insightful. You guys are on track to do very well and definitely appreciate your time.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Well, we'll talk soon.
Take care.